So this is actually a rather complicated concept of why would I have a tank on my team in Epic 7 instead of just having another healer? Um, so this is really interesting because on one hand you have the healer that can soak all the damage, as most healers are rewarded for having more HP, whereas the tanks might just provoke a lot of times. So what's the benefit of having a tank? Uh, I think to kind of showcase this, Fallen Cecilia, who I have on screen right now, probably the best tank in game. It's really hard to find someone better than her because she does so much. As you mentioned before, she's got to provoke, incredibly strong. She forces someone to attack her. It's on 100% on her S1, which only targets one person, but that locks someone down really, really well. Uh, on top of that, she gives a barrier to her entire team to begin with, so that's a lot of damage mitigation. On her turn, she also selects the person with the lowest HP to gain another barrier. And this all scales with her health, so this is giving some people a really thick barrier, which really, really helps out a lot. Next, we have her S3, which gives skill nullifier to everyone on the team. That just screams damage mitigation. So her S1, her S2, and her S3 all prevent damage from going to the team. So what makes it even better, we have a max ranked Aureus. And this right here is what makes tanks really, really good, and it's just sharing damage with the tank. So the tank is going to be taking 20% of the damage that someone else would be taking. And you might say to yourself, 20%, that's, who cares? That's really big when they're already getting a massive barrier. It's essentially the difference between life and death for a lot of units that are attempting to get one shot. And if they're not getting one shot, it's even more damage mitigation from each attack. So for example, say we have my Arby. He's got 10k HP. We can now treat him at being at 1200, not including the barrier. On top of that, the Aureus is also giving them defense. So So our Arby at 988 defense is actually at higher defense. And he is at 12k HP, and then he's got a barrier on him. So that's just much more survivable. The added benefit of the Aureus is that 20% damage goes to your tank, meaning that if you have a single target healer, it's a lot easier to keep just the Aureus holder alive, because it can now single focus on that person instead. Crozet here, another super good tank option. Why do I love Crozet? He's really good on effect resistance because his S3 will full cleanse another unit, which is really nice. I also gave him this artifact, which will allow him to push up his ally. So now they're going faster and they're getting cleansed of all their debuffs. And on top of that, he's taking 40% of that unit's damage. So you might look at Cross and be like, 17,000, that's kind of low for a tank. But when you consider it, he's got really high defense. He's also mitigating a lot of crit damage, and then he's soaking 40% of the damage that another unit would be taking. So we look at, say, Arby. He's suddenly taking less crit damage, and he's now taking 40% of the damage that would be going to Arbiter is now going to Troublemaker Crozet. So he's just not dying. And if they attempt to CC my Arbiter, it's going to push up my Crozet, and my Crozet is going to push up my Arbiter Vildred, and my Arbiter Vildred is going to get cleansed, and then he's just going to gab, and he's just going to cut through people like crazy, like this crazy ninja samurai person that's undead, Arbiter Vildred. It's a great character. Yeah, so that's kind of the concept of tanks, is that they mitigate a lot of damage, and they also have other effects that can be game changing. Another tank unit that you might look at and say, that's not a tank, is a Robbie. So she is a tank, well, more bruiser than tank because she doesn't really help the team, but she's just there for the offensive team to eventually have to deal with. Because if they don't have a plan for a Robbie, she'll just slowly bring your team back. They kill someone, a Robbie will kill one of them and bring one of your people back. So they just have to deal with her or just get taken down. And that's something that like a healer like Rule of Light just can't do. She can't mitigate that much damage. She can survive and be really, really annoying, but it's not the same as just having that dedicated tank. Whereas Rule of Light can't keep everyone alive when it's not her turn. And that will be the biggest issue. Is that when it's her turn, it's super impactful and super meaningful. However, a tank's abilities are just always passive. They're always ongoing. So that's kind of one of the really strong things about it. An alternative tank going the wrong way is going to be someone like, where are you? Here we are, Bellion. So a lot of people look at Bellion and they're like, how is she a tank? She provokes. Her S3 is an AoE provoke that's really, really strong. That does a lot of work. She also has her S1 that can make it so they don't hit as well, and she slows them down. So that's a lot of effects that just go off. She also has her S2 that says they don't get souls. So that really shuts down a lot of gameplay options. And this is kind of the idea of having a tank, is that it shuts down their options and what they can do. And typically tanks will do decent damage, honestly. Another tank that I showcased in another video, my Zero Mola Crow. Minimal investment. He does a lot. He's actually really good because his abilities really only care about him having health, which just makes his S3 just cleave through someone. And then he loses health because he has Aureus. Aureus is just one of the better artifacts. He also has a provoke, but we don't really care. We're just here to S3, maybe armor buff everyone. Increased defense, and Aureus is just really, really hard to kill someone. So that's my tank video and why you should use tanks. Double healing's not bad. You'll just